Hi, I'm Kevin Proto with Locals Supporting Locals for another segment of the Heartbeat of the Okanagan. A lot of you know Locals Supporting Locals through our annual calendars. We just released the third. It's now April 2nd, and we're going to be putting together the fourth calendar as well very shortly here. So for anybody interested, localsupportinglocals.ca. It's got our information, contact. It's always a new development right now, but it's still there for you to see. One thing with our calendars that we try to do with Locals Supporting Locals, the theme of them are real living with real food. And we don't use the term organic because we don't, at the end of the day, back in our grandparents' day, it was just real food. They're very, very informative, but part of why I'm showing this right now segues into the show that we're doing right now. We have information on here, and it's even titled up here for education purposes. Suggested documentaries for people to read, such as World According to Monsanto, A World Without Water, all kinds of great documentaries, things that you won't see on that black box. So yeah, we try to help educate people, provoke thought. Now on that note, I have a very special guest today on a very controversial issue. I guess for myself, it's only come out in the past I would say about 6 to 8 months I started to hear about it, at least for myself personally. It may have been out there longer, I don't know. But I found out about it actually from meeting my friend here, Terry Bertram. And he's actually residing with me here in Penticton. But he's on a very special tour right now. And he's going to actually be heading the road very shortly here. And it's in regards to flat earth, which right away, once you say that word, it's like everything else. When it came up with smart meters or with GMOs, your conspiracy nuts, nut jobs written off here. You know, and in the truther world, a lot of us thought that this was just a distraction to make, if you talked about it, you would look like a nut bar, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure you've gone through this, eh, Tori?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, so I'm very happy to have on because I mean I've known you now for about 3-4 months, and it's been incredible. And one thing that really provoked thought here, and that's what we try to do with Locals Supporting Locals, and Tori will explain it for himself. That's all he's trying to do for you guys too, is to provoke thought. I mean, at the end of the day, most of us all know we don't trust mainstream media. We don't trust our governments, what they're saying. We don't trust Health Canada, the FDA, the US, you know, so you have to remember that when you say that, you got to keep that in mind, because that's where a lot of this information that says that this is conspiratorial and blah 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 and we're nut jobs and everything. That's where it's coming from, right? So again, this is just to provoke thought, but I got to admit, after listening to how this ties into Walt Disney and the Epcot Center, he got my attention. You know, so welcome to the show, Tori.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your show.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting subject to say the least. So, but you know, even myself, I came into this just like everybody else, you know, and I thought it was smart, you know, understood everything about science, actually following CERN, you know, I was excited about everything they were doing.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, what's your background here, so we give folks a little idea?
Oh, well, my job per se is in the trade industry, so a gas fitter. I specialize in fireplaces. So I'm actually going to be leaving that job, and that whole profession behind right now. I think the truth is more important. So,
what education-wise, like I mean?
Oh, education. I went to school like everyone else, except for in high school. I went to a self-learning school, so I actually graduated a year early because I took all 3 years in 2 years, and then I went to business college for a year, and then came out into the oil patch for a couple of years, and then got into trades.
Well, because I noticed when we do talk about the subject here, like, you know your numbers and...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like, you didn't take that in school or anything?
Oh yeah, I took all my, like I was a matric student, so I took all my sciences, my physics, my chemistry, and my biology. And
okay.
I know my stoichiometry, all that stuff still sticks with me. You know,
okay, yes.
Being 42 years old, I can still sit down and show you how to put chemicals together, you know. So,
okay, that's what I mean.
So I come with a pretty good foundation in science, and that's what really, I think, if anything, it actually really helped me, because when you leave school, you know, I thought I was done with school back when you're 20, basically. So you get on with life, and you believe that, you know, you're going to work and, you know, raise a family, all this stuff that we do. and you get kind of trapped and you forget, actually, I think, what's actually going on. We get a lot of stuff fed to us, and what is happening is actually quite remarkable, and this is what I discovered. Now, when I first came into this, I have to add too that I was atheist, and this is how much this truth has changed me. I just want to kind of paint that picture of me before I come in, because in 8 months I've come completely a different, like 360, totally destroyed my foundation, you know. So, but what you do is, when I came into looking at flat Earth, it was actually because Obama mentioned it. He mentioned it during a speech, and it caught my ear. I was like, why would the president be talking about flat Earth? You know, everybody knows they have someone write down all this stuff. So, you know, it caught my attention, and I almost forgot about it, except for one day I come home from work and I'm looking through my YouTube, and I see a flat Earth video, and I thought, yeah, I'll click it. You know, I've seen videos there before, but you're always too embarrassed to go click that. So
Well, yeah.
it's like, even if you're by yourself, you just feel like until your brain's going to say, you know, I know that you went and watched a flat Earth video or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something stupid, but anyway. So I checked out one from Jeranism, actually, I have to say, and he really got me thinking, because after that video I was like, okay, they actually make some pretty valid points. And you know what, in all fairness, and I was taught, I was in a debate club when I was in high school, we had an extra course and stuff that we could take, and one of the first things we were taught was we learn our opponent. If you want to debate someone, you first got to go research your opponent, because if you could just go in to an argument and you only know your side of things, you really don't know what's going to come at you, right? So I take that always into all my research. So when I started looking at it, I'm trying to disprove the flat Earth, but first I have to understand what they're talking about. So as I'm looking at what they're talking about, I research what they're saying. You know, there's been some people, maybe they'll see the number, but they won't recite it right. So there's mistakes, I feel, with some people out there that are talking about it, and I think that's going to add some, you know, confusion to it. But some of the people now, I mean, everyone's learning it too, so don't be mindful of that. But there are true and hard numbers that are coming out. And when you put them together and you do your research, you're going to be able to go out there and see that there's no curvature. Like, as far as what is known right now, it's 8 inches times the mile squared is the curvature. And they've always said too that, you know, when you're watching a boat go over the horizon, it disappears from the bottom up, right? But, you know, like they're saying, you know, we say too, with those new cameras that are coming out, we can zoom out once you see it leave the horizon, and then pull it right back to your frame of vision and see it right down to the bottom level. So that kind of blows that saying out of the water, and that comes back from Columbus's days, right? So plus the fact that when you look at an ocean, and you look left to right from your center point of, you know, the horizon, you'll see, you know, 5 miles either way of that horizon, and you don't see no curvature. So that is another thing that our observation has to look at.
So now, I mean, this has been going on for quite some time too. It's been questionable about the walking on the moon, you know, and you got the people that really hardcore believe it, think the other side are nut jobs. I've seen a lot of clips. I got to admit, I don't believe they landed on the moon. And there's more and more coming out. And it does deal in mainstream, where they actually have said it too. That they can't, you'll have to help me out with this, but what is it, the Van Allen belt?
The Van Allen belts.
Yeah, Van Allen belts. Apparently they can't go through those.
Right now they're admitting that they have to,
Sorry.
yeah, they have to figure out a way to build the new Orion shuttle to be able to protect the astronauts to go through that. So, and they've made a lot of slip-ups, actually. NASA and all the space agencies, actually, if you put them underneath a microscope, their material right now is being falsified. It's not like we use Photoshop to look for any kind of copy and pasting, and almost everything that's a still image that they've given so far has been cropped in one way or another. They're not giving us true images. That's why, actually, if you go to NASA's website, they actually don't call any of the pictures they put up there a photograph, because I would link them to say that it's actually 100% real.
Yep.
And there's footage too. We've been digging back, and there's a lot of footage I'm finding, especially in background 60 and up, because, or up to about 80 right now is where I'm looking, but it's all because of the quality of what they're using back then. It's a lot easier to see the mistakes and see the doctoring in their footage. And we're posting, a lot of people are posting on the internet. It is actually, I think that's one thing everyone's seeing right away. A lot of people know that NASA's faking this, and then there's a lot of questions that raise from that right away. I just want to add first though, like, we have a website, and there's like about 25 topics we cover just in that. So there's actually not just NASA or just the curvature argument. We actually, this has a lot, which we probably won't cover in this interview, but I just want to put that out there before we continue on, so you understand we're just covering a few topics here. But with NASA, you have to go back to and look at the fact that all their animation too, in this video you mentioned with Disney, was produced by Disney during those years as well. So this is where you can see where Disney was attached to NASA and still is, because I believe they are helping them with this, their CGI up to now. Because they're also one of the biggest investors in the latest technology, this blue screen stuff, and have a complete mock-up, which we have footage on our YouTube channel showing it.
Well, I know you did a great video, and it's broken into 3 parts, correct?
Oh yeah, with Disney, yeah.
Yeah, and what's the title if they go check it out on your YouTube?
There's one called The Plan, and that one exposes a Disney documentary, which was about the Epcot Center, and this was taken back in 1967. And the other one was from the Ford Motor Company, who became partners with Disney during the New York Fair. Same with Monsanto's, and all of them went into the New York Fair with them, as well as the Epcot Center. Now that's when they all got their partner, or like became close buddies, in my opinion. Because everything, if you watch those 2 videos, because especially the Ford video to follow, their little documentary of the future, it's just, you have to watch it to believe it.
It's truly mind-blowing, because they talk about the city of the future, and they're talking about smart meters, GMOs, all in a very nice way, of course, but...
Well, I'm not sure about nice, because that computer tells you when to go exercise, and it's mandatory, and it's like it says it has to take a pound of flesh from you, so it's like...
Well, because, I mean, because Walt, and the way they deliver this, it doesn't sound like so evil and sinister, initially anyways, but when you truly listen to it, it's very mind-blowing, and when we think Walt Disney, we're thinking kids, fun, excitement, roller coasters, rides, and everything, but it shows you our future, and it's in a dome, essentially a flat earth here, and everything is controlled, every aspect of your life. You grow up here, they have their driving system for you to go to work, to do your job, Monsanto grows your food for you. I think it's like Star Trek. You just press a button and boom, you got, prime rib dinner.
Yeah, well, they almost everything we see in Star Trek, and it's quite interesting because just the other day we seen footage come out with NASA. They're now saying that they figured out warp drive. So I mean, if anything, Star Trek is predicting the future here. But,
cell phones.
Which is kind of interesting because Arthur C. Clarke also predicted satellites and everything back in the day in the early 1900s in his books. So they were reading about that future that became reality in the 60s. And then in the 60s they started movies of our future that are becoming reality now. And it's, and it might sound crazy, but when you start to do the research and see, and this is I think what I'm running into a problem with, mainly, it's just people, they, have what they had from school, but I don't think they've done any further research as far as going for factual research. They've done, entertainment research, sports research, with our sports and everything. They've done, just maybe living research, all that kind of stuff, but they're not looking at the history of where we came from and stuff. Are these guys, these scientists, actually being honest with us? Because we actually give quite a bit of trust to people.
Yes.
In very important positions that we actually cannot, as we're finding out, just go up there and double check their work. And we've actually, right now, have been refused because certain scientists in the peer review will not accept a voice from the flat earth community. They just think it's useless. But you know what? in all honesty, how can anything be useless in science when the scientific method dictates that we can always go back and bring new evidence to a model to test it and see if it, fits that model, or it makes the model better. Shouldn't we always be striving for a better model? Now, all the evidence now, we got footage from a rocket going 300 feet or 300 kilometers up, where you can clearly see it's a flat horizon. And that's only 100 kilometers lower than the ISS, which they have a live feed showing a curve on the Earth. But if you watch the clouds for a half hour there, you'll see they don't morph or change as it's rotating. They're pretty good. And plus, we have a video up that exposes the ESA live footage of the ISS at night, where the Earth layer, when I talk layers, it's when in photographs or Photoshop you can build pictures of little layers, so you can put like space, the Earth, and then the clouds, or lights and then clouds, and then whatever, lighting effects on top, and more effects and more effects. So what happened was it was a live feed, and for about 10 minutes, the Earth layer disappeared, and it was just clouds and lightning, or the lights and everything. You could see right through and see all the stars in the background. So unless that actually does happen, then I think we're in trouble. But I'm pretty sure they're faking it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we're seeing more and more of that.
Oh, yeah.
CNN using 2011 footage from the so-called Brussels bombing. They actually doctored it up. When you look at the piece, it's from 2011. And so Fox has been caught how many times now? So I mean, you can't trust anything out there. You really, really got to take a look at it. And more people are pulling this apart. Highly recommended. You can, follow Flat Earth.
The Flat Earth Hub. And then
Flat Earth
we
Hub.
also have a very damning video that actually people should watch. It's a lady reporter actually exposes how the propaganda is in and actually been legalized by the government.
Yes.
To use on us. So remember that. Right now we do have laws in place where the government is legal for them to go to a news agency and create a false story to go out to us as the public on a channel like your nightly news, and it can pass off as real product now, and the government cannot get in trouble for that because there's actually a law that allows the American government, so as with the Canadian government, to pass off propaganda to us, and that's totally legit for them.
Actually, it's funny you say that too. When for 9/11, when they were interviewing George Bush as well, that was actually brought up too about using propaganda film. Yeah, and I mean, there's more and more that came out on 9/11. The weapons of mass destruction were never there. Coincidentally, $2.3 trillion went missing the day prior to 9/11. Like everything just leads up after each other here, And so people got to start connecting these dots here and starting to see, again, what's coming off that black box. False flags have been happening since.
They've been actually happening from all the research I'm doing, and I plug about 10 to 16 hours up to now. It's going to vary now while I'm on the road. Hopefully, actually, I'll get more, maybe some days. But I've been, I've actually done more studying than I did, I think, in all of high school on this subject. Because it means everything. Because if they are lying about this, I want to know. Because that is my reality. I can, for myself, I will not live in a lie like that. I can't bear the thought of it. And now that I know the truth, because I've done all the research and from the survey, I'm going to put out some more videos. I just found out all the information about how surveying works and how they actually have to supply, the government supplies a data measurement. I got research on, from the footage for the privilege, I got footage for, the government being able to propagate or use propaganda against us. All this stuff, it all ties together. I'm trying to also raise awareness for all you guys on the truther side to show how everything is attached and how they needed this lie, a global lie, to take us away from a greater truth. Everyone, and it's hard to explain this, and maybe I can explain it now with the fact that I was atheist before. Now I completely know there's a God above us. I completely turned my mind to know 100%. No one can make me refute that. But don't just link me to Christianity or any religion right now, because as far as I'm concerned, the truth led me to just one truth, which is there's a God, a creator for sure.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
than that, I still have my reservations on the Bible because I went to a preacher and they basically tell me that Genesis is a myth and evolution and stuff can't be denied, and they only look at part of the Bible. So that confused me because I never actually studied the Bible, but when I looked at the Bible and saw that they had something to match this, and then went to the church and they tell me that it's just a myth, but yet I'm seeing that's the truth. It was quite confusing.
Well, I gotta say, by all means, what you're doing is truly commendable. Most people couldn't do it. I mean, there's a lot of people doing great work out there in the way of activism, trying to raise awareness. But you're actually taking, he's actually, because he was running his own company here, doing quite well for yourself. And he's now put that all to the side now, shut her down, and he's going across Canada, back and forth, to help raise awareness. And he's not there to tell you.
No, I just want to wake up people to go research it themselves.
Provoke thought. You got to do your own research. You got to know it for yourself, and you know, you got to stop listening to other people.
Don't ever listen to anybody else. Actually, the best thing you can learn from this, don't believe me right now. What you need to do is believe yourself. Believe in your research. Go into and make it an addiction to go out and find out for sure that the facts you're being told are real. Just dig into them a bit. Like dig into GPS, for example. You'll find out that you're going to run into the wall with the Defense Department because it was actually comes out of the Defense Department as a gift to society. You know, that's kind of how they put it. So they stopped you from actually learning all the facts about how it got or was created. But if you look at the Defense Department, their contracts over the years from the government were for their LORAN system for the longest time, which if you look at the LORAN system is a worldwide radio communication system. In 1953 they put up the highest tower down in Washington and actually had a little nice government spot or commercial or whatever they used to do, a little documentary on it, where they said that they were going to send a signal from the one tower around the world in 1/10 of a second. And from one tower, and they were talking to all their subfleets with that tower. They also said in that film, I actually made a film, it's called Cable Internet, I think I named it. But take a look at it, because they actually exposed that they had the capability of talking with the radio wave all around the world at that time, and that just can't happen on a spear. Except for, people will throw at me right away about radio waves in the ionosphere and bouncing. And that's how they kind of came up with that 30 years after sending the first signal from England to Canada, because people raised the question, well, how did it get across over the curvature? Well, and then it took 30 years for a scientist to come out and put his name on that, there's propagation on the ionosphere. But then you have to ask yourself, how are they talking to the rover on Mars if the radio waves bounce on our ionosphere?
Good point.
So, I mean,
it's funny when they slip up, and
yeah.
a lot of times people won't put the two together,
Well, it's just like the test they have. Back in the past, there was a Greek fellow that went and did the two sticks in the ground. Carl Sagan brought up this to prove that we live on a spear. Back then, is he put two sticks. It took a year to do it. The first year he goes and puts a stick up on noon in Alexandria when the sun's at its equinox, so above the equator, so he knew the distance from the city to the equator. And he took the shadow measurement, and then he went up north and was up in Tapi the year after and did that same test, and then calculated, assuming that the Earth was round, so he used 360 degrees, the type of calculations that they used, and he worked backwards, and also taking in the fact that light is parallel. So there's those two assumptions, which are a lot to do when you're working science, because it's always a theory coming in, so sometimes you got to take stuff as an unknown, but you give it a property anyway to test your theorem, right? That's how you kind of figure things out. So he brought in those two assumptions and came out with his measurement, which is, they commend him to this day because he's only about a couple hundred kilometers out. The thing is, though, is that people have started raising questions about the rays coming through the clouds come at angles. So we call it divergence of rays, right? And so the question comes up, well, how can the light come through those clouds bent? Because they sure do look like they're coming from a source of light right above the clouds. And then the scientists go and, oh no, well I guess they tell us now that those light bends when it hits our upper atmosphere and diverge. Well, then you have to ask yourself, well, no, well, okay, if that's the case, then his experiment with the two sticks in the shadow to measure off the Earth, it's got to be wrong then, and we're going to be a lot smaller than Earth. You know, going, nope.
Well, also, speaking of divergence there, in the movie Allegiant,
Yeah.
just watched that recently, and speaking of domes, highly recommend it. A lot of our futures are in films.
Oh, definitely.
V for Vendetta, very good one if you want to see the Big Brother state. That one nails it right on there. And the Wachowski brothers even say if you got rented the DVD or bought the DVD with the extra clips, and they tell you, you know, they walk a very fine line on what they're allowed to tell you in their films. You know, but yeah, Legion was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, Divergence. Yeah.
Divergence, yeah.
And then when you look at it too, there's a lot of flat Earth in movies. Because basically, if you go to Genesis, you'll figure out quickly about the firmament. Because it's basically the water. Yeah, I won't go into detail about it, but it's just quick. It was God raised the waters above from the waters below and created a dome, and then put the Earth in there, right? So we're protected underneath the dome, and celestial bodies rotate above us. But anyway, if you look in movies, it's quite interesting because you'll see that metaphor all the way through from Thunderdome back in the past, and you have to think with that name too. Thunder, it echoes, but you know, I've been, you know, growing up on the prairies in Calgary, you always wonder, it's like, where is it echoing from? And it makes sense, you know, now it makes sense when I think Thunderdome. So the movie Thunderdome, you know, the Simpsons movie had their one and only greatest movie that they made is putting a Springfield in a dome, right? So,
Yeah.
and then plus that one episode where they hit the ball out of the park and hit the top of the dome, and then the waters come flooding in, just like out of Genesis, you know. So they're showing it there. Or you had the Stephen King book and series, The Dome. You had Truman's Show, and when you break down the name, True Man.
Yeah.
And they're showing the dome, you know, everything. Just it's really it's interesting because when you find out the truth, you can see the mockery, right? And there's a great movie that just was out in 2006. Everybody, it's a must. Idiocracy. What I want people to understand is that's mockery of us if we don't wake up and start putting our thinking caps on. Because I'll tell you, they're mocking you there. And there's a flat symbol right in front of your face throughout the entire movie. Is the name of the chicken that they eat. It's called flattering. And if you break it down like a license plate, it's flat, you're are in. And it is crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of things are written in plain view. And once you understand their language, and it is a language, kind of like that movie with the wrestler there with the glasses when he puts them on. He sees the poster for advertising.
Oh, They Lived. Yeah, and you know what? That movie is actually, that's a must watch too. That was from John Carpenter. And John Carpenter is well known to have ties to Aleister Crowley, and who that man who's behind the Satanic Church, which this is the 50th year of the church, by the way, which was on 1966 when they founded, which that's when Disney died. There's actually, that year is actually very important to look at for research. But anyway, I won't go into that because there's quite a bit to that, and we don't got time for that here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to actually do the research because there's a lot of areas I feel that when school we were taught surface information, and none of us had time because we're so quick to take it in and repeat it on our tests that we weren't actually asking the questions. Where did that information come from? You know, so.
Okay, so just for you folks here, so your trip across Canada, you're starting here in Penticton, and you're going right across Canada here. So how's it working out for you? Where are you going first? Have you had a lot of support? If I'm not mistaken, you started a Kickstarter campaign.
Well, the Kickstarter actually, that was just something that was a thought. I didn't know, like, we've never done this before, so we kind of just went, well, what do we do to, you know, because we're going to need some support. I'm kind of, you know, there is still the fact of this paradigm and everything that goes along with it, just like anything else. You know, you devote yourself to a cause. It's not because of the money, but reality, of course, is going to cost money to do it somehow, some way. I know I could do things for very cheap, so that isn't a big deal. And I don't think it's going to rely on people's funding. I hope along the way people are going to see that it's going to start to help and create that inspiration that people need to start looking into it for themselves, or at least get curious about it, where they want to go look at it. Because that's what happened to me. Because actually, I never thought I'd ever study for something this hard again. And wow, when you start to do about 2 hours of research, it becomes an addiction.
Well, I know it happened to a gentleman that I met actually in Cornwall, Ontario, and that's where I just moved from Vancouver, and that's where I got my awakening. Mm-hmm. And I talked about certain things that personally happened to me and everything else, mm-hmm. And he asked me to go. I said, "Here, go check out this, and this," and I didn't see him for about 2 weeks. And finally, we met up again, you know, and I said, "Oh, by the way, did you go and check that out?" And he says, "Honestly, Kev," he says, "I got on there." He says, "I was on there for 5 hours straight." Mm-hmm. And he says, "I wasn't sure what I wanted to do." He says, "I was ready to go empty my bank account and go do the most amount of drugs that I can do and lie in my bathtub." Because he says, it's so gloomish when you start to really dig, you know, and that's not what we're trying to do here either, because a lot of it can be very scary, but it's just about us reconnecting, reuniting, hence the locals supporting locals. You know, a lot of us have just lost that loving feeling, that caring for our neighbors, and really that's all we got to do is reconnect, reunite, start supporting one another here. You know, I mean, everybody plays a role in our community, from the guy that's shoveling the poop up in the park to the janitor fixing your toilets. You don't have to smell your own poop, you know. I mean, everybody. You know, people think that computer geeks or techs are like the smartest people in the whole wide world. Meanwhile, they can't grow their own food. You know, like everybody plays a role here. You know, so and check your ego. You know, learn to work with each other. The one thing I've noticed with many projects is you try working together with people, and they think they can do it better. So then they take your concept, and then you run off to try to do it over here, and that just it's very disheartening. And if we just got to stop doing that and then truly start really working together again, you know?
Yeah, well, exactly. We waste so much of our resources as a human race on so much useless stuff that if we took away all the useless stuff out of our lives and took all that resource back that we put out every day and make it count, think of where this world would be. We should actually be working a little bit just as communities. Communities know best for communities. Yeah. We should never have to ask our government for something. Nope. All we should do is put in this is what we need in this community, and it would be like, okay, as soon as we can rile up that much resource to go to that project, it is done. It's not a question of if it will get done. It's just a question of when. And when time is something we all can live with an answer. To sit there and argue with the government for something is, I don't even understand how that is even possible when we consider ourselves to be a free nation. And then to look across the world and see what's happening across the world and turn a blind eye to it, it's horrible. You know, and I think when we, you know, especially when we realize this greater lie, this one that's they're lying about where we're from, to hide the fact that we're actually not what they want us to think we are. And you have to go do your research. You can't believe me, and you're not going to understand what I'm saying here. You're going to probably think I'm some kind of quack, but it brings you and it makes you understand why you're here, your purpose of life again. They took that away from us. This is what Flat Earth opens up, and I'll swear up and down, I lay underneath the stars because I can now see the dome. And to me, every night I can show it because I understand perception. I explain it logically to you too. You know, it's an amazing feeling. That's why I can't wait to do this tour. I'm going to keep doing it back and forth until that paradigm is welcomed itself in, or they arrest me for, I don't know, bringing out the truth.
Well, and that's the thing too. So you're starting off. You're going to
Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then turning around, and we're actually got lots of people are writing in too, so it's ever changing. But right now, we actually got someone up in Edmonton that he wants to hook up with us and then go up to catch the midnight sun, so we can get some more footage up there. Which there's 10,000 pictures showing that it gets smaller as it travels around, which would be impossible at the distance they claim. So but we have to actually have so much evidence in order to prove to people.
well, that's it. So just in sticking to the tour here. So
Yeah.
you're going to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So if you guys see this video, okay.
And you see me on the road with my dog.
Yes, Kita here will be his sidekick, and then you also have in a month Todd.
Yeah, Todd's joining me in a month. Actually, I'm picking up a gentleman that's joining the tour in Vancouver. So if you can imagine, like Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
We're trying to Forrest Gump it.
Yeah.
For sure. We're trying to anybody that's can do this. So well, actually, it's not that you can do it because everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's the matter of you got to get to that position where you know that we need to change, and everybody keeps sitting there and going, you know what, I know we need to change, but I can't do it. It's just one me.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think if I start it, how about as it grows, we'll see how big it gets, and maybe it'll finally get you off your couch to come join it, so we can change this damn world to something we want to live in.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing.
Get the truth out.
It's the same thing when I started locals, supporting locals.
Yeah.
I'm just a concerned citizen at the end of the day.
Yeah,
right? And you don't take courses on how to save your planet.
No.
From my perspective of things is when you truly do start doing this research, and we're seeing more of it now. All the people that voted for Justin, change, Obama, change, and we're seeing that it's all lies, just lies.
It's always just lies.
Yeah, same shit, different pile, and so you can't go for the jugular. Like if you wanted to take down Monsanto, for example, massive corporation that if you ask me at the end of the day, they're almost behind everything that's going on in our world here. But what you can do is take it back locally. Take back your local government, support your local farmers, support your local businesses. That's where we got to start taking it back, and that's how this ties in with Tori here, going across Canada, so once he comes to your community, it's up to the community to keep going on this, and so it's almost like you should start a locals chapter where you are, and so you can keep the momentum going.
Well, and also consider this, in the world, Canada is actually looked up to by many, many countries. If we can get the movement across here, the truth movement, to bring the truth out. We know what the truth is all about. Let's show the world the truth, and everyone else will follow. I can almost guarantee you that because I talk to people all over the world, and Canada is, they look up to us. We are, in a way, not to sound egotistical, but in a way, when you look at the economies around the world and everything else around this planet, Canada it's like the big brother to every country. Every country looks up to us in a way because of the way we are, or used to be. I mean, we're starting to lose it.
Yeah.
And that actually offends me.
Yeah,
because I didn't grow up like this. I didn't grow up to disrespect people, but I see that throughout our media, through our movies, our Hollywood, our music, and everything.
We're becoming arms dealers, for God's sake.
It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Doing business with Saudi Arabia, like one of the biggest human rights violators on the globe.
There's this book out now too, the movie about the Green Book or whatever. It's a documentary over Libya and Gaddafi. You guys got to go through that and reevaluate actually what happened, because I've seen footage of that man driving down the street out of the limousine, out of the back hardtop, like old toy. I think it was with Tom Hanks when he was like.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's going down the street with no security. He doesn't need this massive FBI and shutting down streets and everything. He's got the people are running up, and you can tell when people love someone.
Yeah.
His people loved him, and then you hear these stories about how, he was infiltrated by these black ops and everything that are basically coming from all the governments. Canada's responsible for it too. They play into this too. Anybody that's actually been faking this space stuff, because when you think about it, that's a lot of money. Remember, NASA took an $18.5 billion budget last year, just for this year.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money. Everyone says follow the money. Well, there's a big reason right now. There, just the money alone makes this.
Well, that's
a
why I
huge
like the
time.
way it shows up in the Epcot Center.
Yeah, and the Epcot
Under
Center.
one of the domes, okay, because it's an assortment of domes, and one of them is the Space Dome. So this is where I guess you pretend you're going to space and everything else like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You
they
know.
used to have the rocket ride before they even went up to the moon. They actually were really pushing it before they actually went up to the moon. You could see a ramp up in the movies too. Through about 58 and on, coming up to the moon landing, they were really pushing that into the public's mind. And understand this is why they call it TV programming.
Yes.
It is there to program you. We actually were paying for our own programming, which is kind of sad. But it is true.
The charge a big chunk too. This doesn't work, by the way.
And it is so true. But you also
It's
got to
not
be
no cable, no nothing.
yeah. Also be careful of the internet though too.
Yes.
The government, and there is just as much as you can see through our videos. I mean, someone could sit here and call us government operation or whatever, but I mean that's why we're doing this to it.
Let me give you a shot here of
Yeah. So we can see what's happening.
Tori's partner for the road here. This is Kita. There you go.